Angela was walking down the crowded city street, her tired feet pressing against the hard pavement. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. She had just finished a long shift at the diner where she worked, and her uniform still smelled faintly of coffee and fried food. Even though her body ached, she carried herself with quiet strength. She was used to long hours and hard work. Life had never been easy for her, but she had learned to keep moving forward with patience and determination. The street was noisy, as usual. Cars rushed past, horns honked in frustration, and people hurried in every direction, their faces buried in their phones or lost in their own thoughts. Among all that chaos, Angela often felt invisible. She lived in a small apartment nearby, worked double shifts most days, and rarely had time to do anything for herself. But she never complained. She told herself that even small steps forward mattered, and she believed that kindness, no matter how small, was a duty in life. As she walked, she noticed families out shopping, children holding hands with parents, and workers rushing home. Just then, something caught her eye. On the opposite side of the street, a little girl about 7 years old was holding onto her caretaker's hand. The girl had curly hair tied with a pink ribbon and wore a bright yellow dress. She looked excited about something, pointing toward a toy store across the street. Before anyone could react, the little girl suddenly broke free from her caretaker's hand and dashed toward the road. It happened so quickly that the caretaker froze for a moment, her voice lost in panic. The girl giggled as if it were a game, unaware of the danger rushing toward her. At the same time, a car was speeding down the road, its engine loud and unforgiving. The driver, distracted by his phone, didn't seem to notice the small figure running into his path. Angela's heart skipped a beat. She didn't think twice. Without caring about her own safety, she bolted forward. Her tired legs found sudden strength as she pushed herself into the street. She heard the caretaker scream, the sound of tires screeching, and the gasps of people nearby. But she focused only on one thing: the little girl in the middle of the road. In the very last second, just as the car was only a few feet away, Angela grabbed the girl and pulled her to the side. The force made Angela stumble, and she hit her elbow hard against the pavement. Pain shot through her arm, but she held the child tightly, shielding her from any harm. The car swerved and honked loudly, missing them by a small distance, before rushing down the road without even stopping. The little girl was trembling, tears filling her big eyes. She clung to Angela's arm as if she had known her forever. Angela knelt down, ignoring the sting in her elbow, and gently wiped the child's tears with her other hand. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now," she said softly, her voice calm and reassuring. The caretaker finally ran over, breathless and shaken. She kept apologizing over and over, thanking Angela with a trembling voice. "I don't know what would have happened if you weren't here," she cried, holding the little girl close. Angela simply shook her head. She didn't want thanks. In her heart, she believed any person should have done the same. She looked at the girl, who was still holding her hand, and gave her a small smile. "You have to be careful, little one. Roads are dangerous. Always stay close to someone who loves you." The girl sniffled and nodded, still too shaken to say much. Angela brushed some dirt off the child's dress and helped her stand properly. A small crowd had gathered, whispering and watching, but Angela didn't pay attention. She didn't care about being noticed. She only cared that the child was unharmed. Her elbow throbbed, but she didn't show it. She simply stood, gave the caretaker a polite nod, and began walking away. She did not wait for applause or recognition. In her mind, it was just something anyone should have done if they had been in her shoes. For her, saving the girl was natural, not something heroic. What Angela didn't know, however, was that across the street, someone had been watching everything carefully. A tall man in an expensive suit stood frozen on the sidewalk. His eyes had widened the moment his daughter had broken free and run into the road. His heart had nearly stopped when he saw the car rushing forward. He had been too far away to reach her in time, but his eyes never left her. When Angela appeared out of nowhere and risked her own safety to save his daughter, relief washed over him so strongly that he felt weak in the knees. For a moment, he just stood there, watching this stranger kneel and comfort his daughter as if she were her own. He saw her kind eyes, her calm words, and the way she left without expecting even a word of gratitude. That man was Mr. Thompson, one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city. He was known for his sharp mind, his influence, and his success, but in that instant, all he felt was the simple, vulnerable fear of a father who had almost lost his child. His heart pounded as he watched Angela walk away quietly, blending back into the crowd as if nothing extraordinary had happened. The little girl, still in her caretaker's arms, turned her head as if searching for the woman who had saved her. She waved her small hand weakly toward the direction Angela had gone. Mr. Thompson gently held his daughter, whispering to her that she was safe, but in his mind, one thought repeated itself: who was that woman? Angela didn't turn back. She crossed the street and continued her walk home, holding her sore elbow, thinking about the long evening she still had ahead. To her, it was just another day. She had no idea that her selfless act had left a deep mark on the wealthy father who had seen it all, or that this single moment would soon change her life in ways she could never have imagined. The street slowly returned to its normal rhythm after the near accident, but Mr. Thompson's heart had not yet calmed. He held his daughter close, still shaken by what almost happened. The image of the stranger, the woman who had saved his little girl, stayed in his mind like a photograph that could never fade. She had acted so quickly, without hesitation, and without fear. The caretaker kept apologizing, her face pale and nervous. She explained how the child had suddenly let go of her hand, how she had been caught off guard. Mr. Thompson listened, but his focus was on his daughter's small hands gripping his shirt. She was safe now, but she could have been lost in just a second. That thought alone made him shiver. "Daddy," the little girl whispered, her voice soft and shaky. "Yes, my angel," he replied, stroking her hair gently. "That lady, she helped me," she said, her eyes still searching the crowd for Angela. "She told me to be careful." Mr. Thompson kissed the top of her head. "Yes, sweetheart. That lady saved you." His voice was steady, but inside, his emotions were storming. He had seen many things in life, dealt with big business deals, faced competitors, and solved problems that seemed impossible, but nothing compared to what he had just witnessed. A stranger had done what even he could not: reach his daughter in the exact moment of danger and bring her back to safety. He turned to ask where the woman had gone, but by then, Angela was already far down the road. She had disappeared into the evening crowd as quietly as she had appeared. She hadn't waited to be thanked, and she hadn't tried to explain anything. She had simply done what was needed and then walked away. That detail stayed with him the most. Most people, he thought, might expect recognition after something like that. They might stay, wait for attention, or even brag about it later. But not her. She had not even looked back once. It was as if she had given a gift and wanted nothing in return. Later that evening, when they finally reached their home, a large mansion on the edge of the city, Mr. Thompson could not rest. He sat in his office, surrounded by expensive furniture, polished wood, and shelves filled with books and awards. But none of those things gave him comfort. He kept remembering the woman's face, the determination in her eyes when she grabbed his daughter, the calm way she had spoken to her afterward, and the quiet dignity when she walked away. His daughter, still shaken, refused to sleep until she had spoken about the event again. "Daddy," she said while lying in bed, "do you think we'll see her again?" He smiled softly, brushing her hair aside. "I hope so, Angel." She's a very special person. I want to thank her, the little girl whispered, her eyes heavy with sleep. She saved me. We will, he promised, though he wasn't sure how. I'll find her. The child drifted off to sleep, holding her stuffed toy, while Mr. Thompson sat by her side for a long time, his mind racing. For a man who had everything, wealth, power, and influence, the situation felt different. He was used to solving problems with money or decisions, but this was not about that. This was about gratitude. This was about honor. He needed to find the woman who had saved his daughter's life. The next morning, he spoke with the caretaker again. She described Angela as best as she could remember: the uniform she had been wearing, the way she looked, the kindness in her eyes. Mr. Thompson ordered his driver to revisit the street where it all happened. He even asked people nearby if they knew the woman, but most only shook their heads. She had blended into the crowd like anyone else. Meanwhile, Angela carried on with her life, completely unaware that anyone was searching for her. Her arm still ached from where she had fallen, but she paid little attention to it. She woke up early, prepared breakfast for herself, and went to the diner for another long shift. The morning was filled with the same usual routine: serving coffee, writing down orders, and cleaning tables. Her co-workers had no idea about what she had done the previous evening. Angela didn't mention it either. She didn't think it was something worth telling. To her, it was simply an instinct, something that any human being should do without thinking twice. Customers came and went, laughing, talking, and complaining about their days. Angela smiled politely at each one, her quiet strength hidden behind her tired eyes. She didn't know that, at the same time, Mr. Thompson's men were still asking around in nearby neighborhoods, hoping for a clue about her identity. Back at his mansion, Mr. Thompson found himself restless. He canceled meetings, something he rarely did. His assistant noticed his distraction, but he gave no explanation. He kept remembering the moment: the car rushing forward, his heart sinking, and then the woman appearing like a shield between danger and his daughter. He thought about what could have happened if she hadn't been there. The idea was unbearable. For a man who had built his empire with control, planning, and certainty, this event reminded him how fragile life really was. Money could not buy another moment if his daughter had been taken from him. It was a stranger's courage that had made all the difference. That evening, he sat by his daughter again. She was drawing a picture with crayons, her small hands carefully coloring. She held up the paper proudly when she was done. It was a simple drawing of a woman holding her hand, with a car drawn in the background. "This is her," the girl said. "This is the lady who saved me." Mr. Thompson took the paper, his throat tightening. Even a child could see how important that woman was. "It's beautiful," he told her. "And you're right. She's very important." He pinned the drawing on the wall of his office later that night. Every time he looked at it, he reminded himself of his promise. He would find Angela, not because of guilt, not because of obligation, but because his heart told him he must. Days passed, and still, he found nothing. Angela's life remained simple and unnoticed, while Mr. Thompson grew more determined. He spoke less to his business partners and more to his staff about searching. He realized that this was not about owing someone money or favors, it was about showing respect to someone who deserved it. Angela, however, kept living quietly. In her spare time, she visited a small community center near her neighborhood, where she volunteered to help children with homework and activities. She loved seeing their bright smiles and laughter, even when she herself felt exhausted. Helping others gave her strength, the same strength that had made her jump into the road without thinking. One evening, as she was walking home from the center, she paused to look at the sunset again. She thought about the little girl she had saved. She wondered if the child was okay, if she had been too scared, or if she had been comforted afterward. Angela hoped she was safe and happy. Then she smiled faintly and whispered to herself, "That's all that matters." She had no idea that at that very moment, miles away in a mansion, the wealthy father was thinking about her too, planning quietly in his heart how he would not rest until he found the stranger who had saved his daughter. Mr. Thompson's life had always been carefully organized, every hour planned and managed by assistants, but now his thoughts were unsettled. Ever since the day of the near accident, he had been restless. He kept replaying the moment in his mind, the way Angela had appeared from the crowd and saved his daughter with such courage. He felt as though fate had placed that woman in his path for a reason, and he could not ignore it. At breakfast one morning, his daughter brought up the subject again. She poked her fork into her pancakes and looked up at her father with wide eyes. "Daddy, did you find her yet?" Mr. Thompson sighed gently. "Not yet, Angel. But I'm still trying." The little girl tilted her head curiously. "You always find things. You always tell me if I work hard, I can get anything. Why is it so hard to find her?" Her question pierced him. She was right. He was a man who had everything at his fingertips. If he wanted something, his money, his power, or his influence could make it happen. But this was different. Angela wasn't looking to be found. She wasn't a person trying to step into the spotlight. She was living her life quietly, and maybe that was why it was so hard to trace her. "I'll find her," he finally said with a reassuring smile. "Sometimes it just takes longer." That same day, he gathered a few trusted staff members and gave them clear instructions. "I want you to focus on that street, the area near where the accident happened. Ask the shopkeepers, the people who live around there. We know she was wearing a diner uniform. That's a start. She must work nearby." His employees nodded, though some of them looked puzzled. They couldn't understand why their wealthy and powerful boss was spending so much effort on one woman. But Mr. Thompson didn't explain. This wasn't about business, and it wasn't about appearances. It was personal. While his men searched, Angela was busy at the diner, moving from table to table with her usual quiet patience. The manager often praised her for being reliable. Customers liked her because she listened kindly and never lost her temper. She didn't know that, only a few streets away, strangers were asking questions about her. One afternoon, as she wiped down a table, one of her co-workers leaned close and whispered, "Hey, some men came around earlier. They were asking if we knew a woman who fits your description. You know anything about that?" Angela froze for a moment, confused. "Asking about me? Why would they do that?" Her co-worker shrugged. "I don't know. They didn't say much, just that someone wanted to find you. Don't worry, I didn't give them details. Maybe it's a mistake." Angela forced a smile, but her mind wandered. Who would be looking for her? She had no debts, no trouble, no secrets. The only unusual thing she had done recently was save that little girl. For a brief moment, she wondered if it had something to do with that. But she shook her head quickly. "No," she told herself. "That was nothing. I just did what anyone would do." Still, the thought lingered. Meanwhile, Mr. Thompson's frustration was growing. Days had passed, and although he knew she worked somewhere nearby, they still hadn't located her. He drove down to the neighborhood himself, something he hadn't done in years. He stepped out of his luxury car, blending awkwardly with the ordinary people around him. Shopkeepers stared, curious why such a wealthy man was walking through their streets. He asked questions politely. Most people didn't know anything, but a few remembered a woman in a uniform running into the road to save a child. An old man sitting outside a corner shop told him, "I saw her that day. Brave woman, she didn't even care about herself. But she left quickly. Didn't want attention." Those words confirmed what Mr. Thompson already believed: she was someone who valued humility. That night, he returned home late. His daughter was waiting for him, sitting up in bed with her drawing pad. She had made another picture, this time of herself holding hands with Angela in front of a big house. "This is me and her," she explained proudly. "I want her to come here one day." Mr. Thompson's heart softened. He kissed her forehead. "I promise you, Angel, I'll bring her here one day." His determination grew stronger with each passing day. He told himself it wasn't just about gratitude anymore. He admired Angela's character. In a world full of selfishness, she had shown pure selflessness. He wanted his daughter to grow up knowing people like that existed. He wanted her to understand that kindness was more valuable than wealth. Angela, however, was unaware of this silent search. Her life remained busy and simple. After work, she often went to the community center to help children. She would sit with them, help with homework, or play small games. The kids loved her. They looked at her not just as a helper but as someone who truly cared. One evening, as she walked home, she thought again about the little girl she had saved. Her mind replayed the moment, the way the child had clung to her, the tears, the frightened eyes. Angela smiled softly, wondering if the girl was okay now. She hoped the child was laughing again, feeling safe in her parents' arms. That was enough for Angela. She didn't need thanks or gifts. But in the mansion, Mr. Thompson wasn't giving up. He had narrowed down his search to a few diners and cafes in the area. He instructed his staff to visit them one by one. "Be respectful," he reminded them. "We're not trying to scare her. We just want to know her name." It was unusual for him. Normally, he let assistants handle everything without his involvement. But this time, he often went himself, walking into small places where he normally would never step foot. He scanned every face, hoping to see the woman who had changed his life in a single moment. His employees noticed the change in him. He was more thoughtful, more serious. He cancelled unnecessary meetings and spent more time at home with his daughter. His friends and business partners teased him, saying he was acting unusual. But he didn't care. Deep down, he knew this wasn't just about finding someone. It was about connecting with something real, something that money couldn't buy. One late afternoon, as he stood outside a corner cafe, he felt a strange certainty that he was getting closer. He didn't know why, but he felt the woman who had saved his daughter wasn't far away anymore. Angela, at that same time, was leaving her shift at the diner, tying her sweater around her shoulders. She didn't know that her quiet, ordinary walk home was about to lead her into a moment she could never have predicted, a moment where her path and Mr. Thompson's path would cross again, not by accident, but by destiny. Angela's days continued to move in their familiar rhythm. Work at the diner, helping at the community center, and long walks home in the evening. Life for her was steady, though tiring. She didn't know that somewhere out there, a wealthy father was still looking for her. To her, what had happened with the little girl on the street was already in the past. She carried only a quiet hope that the child was happy and safe now. But destiny has its own way of bringing people together. One Saturday afternoon, Angela walked to the community center carrying a bag of storybooks she had borrowed from a friend. The center was small and old, but it was filled with laughter and energy. Children were running, drawing, and reading. Angela sat on the floor with them, reading aloud in her gentle voice, her face glowing with warmth. At that very same time, Mr. Thompson had decided to visit the area himself again. His daughter had been asking more often about the woman who saved her. She wanted to meet her, to say thank you with her own voice. Mr. Thompson felt that maybe if he walked around the neighborhood instead of just sending others, he might be lucky. As he passed by the community center, he heard the faint sound of children's laughter. Something made him pause. He glanced inside through the open door. His eyes immediately fell on Angela, sitting on the floor with the children gathered around her. She was reading with a soft smile, her voice calm and patient. The children were leaning close, listening carefully, their faces lit up with joy. For a moment, Mr. Thompson just stood there, watching silently. His heart told him instantly that this was her. The same kindness he had seen on the street was written all over her face now. She wasn't doing anything dramatic, she was simply reading, but the sincerity in her actions was unmistakable. When the story finished, Angela closed the book and laughed softly as the children clapped. She looked up, and her eyes met his through the open door. She paused, surprised to see a tall man in a fine suit standing there. At first, she thought he might be lost. She stood and walked toward him politely. "Hello," she said kindly. "Are you looking for someone?" Mr. Thompson's voice was firm but filled with gratitude. "Yes. I've been looking for you." Angela tilted her head, puzzled. "For me?" "Yes," he said, his eyes softening. "I was there that day. I saw what you did for my daughter. You saved her life." Realization washed over Angela. Her breath caught, and she looked away modestly. "Oh, that," she said quietly. "It was nothing. Anyone would have done the same." But Mr. Thompson shook his head firmly. "No. Not everyone would have risked their life for a stranger. What you did. I will never forget it." Just then, a small voice called out, "Daddy." Angela turned and saw the little girl running toward them, her curls bouncing. She threw herself into her father's arms, then looked at Angela with wide, bright eyes. "It's you," the girl said with a smile. "You're the lady who saved me." Angela knelt down to meet the girl at eye level. "Hello again," she said warmly. "How are you feeling now?" "I'm good," the girl said proudly. "I was scared that day, but I'm not scared anymore. I drew pictures of you." Angela laughed softly. "That's very sweet of you." The girl reached out and hugged Angela tightly. For a moment, Angela was surprised, but then her arms wrapped around the child gently. Her heart warmed. She had thought often about this little girl, and now here she was, safe and happy. That was all Angela had wished for. Mr. Thompson watched the scene quietly, his throat tightening with emotion. It was rare for him to feel such a deep sense of gratitude. In his world of business, people often acted with motives: money, gain, or ambition. But Angela had acted purely from kindness. When the girl finally let go, Angela stood, brushing the dust from her skirt. "I'm glad she's safe. That's all that matters to me," she said softly. But Mr. Thompson wasn't ready to let her walk away again. "Please," he said, "allow me to thank you properly. You saved the most precious part of my life. I can never repay you enough." Angela shook her head gently. "Sir, I don't need thanks. I didn't do it for a reward. I just did what anyone should do." Her words struck him deeply. She wasn't pretending. She truly believed it. He admired her even more. Still, he couldn't ignore the feeling that he wanted to do something for her, something meaningful. "At least let us take you to dinner," he offered. "My daughter would love it. She talks about you every day." Angela hesitated. She wasn't used to invitations like this. Her life was simple, and she didn't feel comfortable around wealth or luxury. But when she looked down at the girl's hopeful face, her heart softened. "If it makes her happy," she said gently, "then yes." The little girl clapped her hands with excitement. "Yay! We can sit together." That evening, Angela found herself seated at a beautiful restaurant she had never imagined visiting. The chandeliers sparkled, and the tables were covered in fine cloths. She felt out of place in her simple dress, but Mr. Thompson and his daughter treated her with such warmth that she soon felt at ease. They talked about everything: the girl's favorite stories, Angela's work at the diner, and the community center where she volunteered. Mr. Thompson listened with genuine interest, impressed by her dedication to others despite her modest life. He realized that her strength wasn't just in the moment she saved his daughter. It was in the way she lived every day with humility, kindness, and quiet courage. As the evening ended, Mr. Thompson felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. He looked at Angela and said, "You may think what you did was small, but to me, it was everything. Meeting you has reminded me of what truly matters." Angela smiled, her eyes calm. "Sometimes life gives us a chance to help someone. That's all I did." But Mr. Thompson knew in his heart that it was much more than that. This woman, who lived in simplicity, had given him something his wealth never could, a reminder of humanity, love, and selflessness. As they left the restaurant, his daughter holding Angela's hand, Mr. Thompson silently promised himself that this was not the end of their story. He would find a way to honor her, not with money, but with something that would truly change her life because she had already changed his. Angela returned home that evening with mixed feelings. The dinner had been wonderful, and the company even more touching, but she still felt unsure. She wasn't used to such attention. For years, she had lived a quiet life, going about her routine without anyone noticing. Now, suddenly, she was the focus of a wealthy man's gratitude and a little girl's affection. It felt strange, almost like a dream. She sat on the edge of her bed in her small apartment, looking around at the familiar walls, the stack of bills on the table, and the simple furniture she had collected over the years. Life had been a constant struggle, yet she never complained. She always told herself that as long as she had strength to work and kindness to give, she would be fine. But that night, as she thought about Mr. Thompson's words and his daughter's smile, she felt something shift inside her. Maybe life had more in store for her than she had ever imagined. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Mr. Thompson stayed awake long after his daughter had gone to bed. He sat in his office with a thoughtful expression. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about business deals or profits. He was thinking about Angela. He admired her humility and her unwillingness to accept praise. She had no idea how much she had changed his outlook on life. He wanted to do something for her, something real, something that could make a lasting difference. He knew she wouldn't accept money simply as a gift. Her pride and dignity were too strong for that. He had to find a way that honored her values, not insulted them. The next day, he visited the community center where she volunteered. He spoke with the director quietly, asking about Angela's role. The director smiled warmly. "Angela has been helping us for years. She's one of the kindest people I've met. She comes here even when she's tired from work. She doesn't ask for anything in return, only wants to see the children happy." Mr. Thompson listened carefully. He could see now what made Angela so special. She wasn't just someone who acted bravely in a single moment. She lived her whole life that way. He came up with a plan. Instead of giving her something directly, he would help her build something lasting. He arranged funding for the community center, repairing the building, bringing in books, toys, and supplies, and creating a scholarship program for the children. He wanted Angela to see that her kindness had inspired something bigger. When Angela arrived at the center the following week, she was shocked. Workers were painting the walls, new shelves were being built, and the children were running around excitedly with fresh books in their hands. She looked around, completely confused. "What's happening here?" she asked the director. The director smiled. "A donation was made. A very large one. Someone wanted to honor you." Angela's eyes widened. "Honor me? No, that can't be right. I don't deserve that." At that moment, Mr. Thompson stepped inside with his daughter by his side. "You do deserve it," he said firmly. Angela turned to him, her voice soft but firm. "You shouldn't have done this. I didn't save your daughter to receive anything. I did it because it was the right thing to do." "I know," Mr. Thompson replied gently. That's exactly why you deserve it. You gave without asking, and now, I want to give in a way that reflects who you are. This center is part of you. It's where you give your time, your love, and your heart. I only helped because I could see how much it matters to you. Angela was speechless. Her heart filled with emotion as she looked at the smiling children around her. This was something she had always dreamed of but never believed possible. She had often wished the center could have more resources, but she never had the means to make it happen. Now, it was becoming real. The little girl tugged at Angela's hand and said cheerfully, "See? Daddy said he would find a way to thank you. And now all the kids can be happy like me." Angela knelt down, hugging the child tightly. Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but from gratitude. She had never expected her small act of bravery to lead to something so big. In the following months, the community center became a bright place full of life. New programs were started, more children came to learn, and families in the neighborhood noticed the change. Angela continued volunteering, but now she had more support. She felt stronger, not because of money, but because she could see the real difference being made. Mr. Thompson visited often with his daughter. Each time, he noticed how the children adored Angela. They ran to her, hugged her, and shared their little victories. His daughter was especially attached to her, often sitting beside her during reading time or holding her hand as they walked through the center. For Mr. Thompson, it wasn't just about gratitude anymore. Angela had become part of their lives. She was no longer just the woman who had saved his daughter, she was a symbol of hope, kindness, and humility. He respected her deeply, not as someone below him, but as someone equal, someone who had qualities far greater than wealth. Angela, too, began to feel a change. She still lived simply, but she no longer felt invisible. She realized that her small act on that day had not just saved a child's life, it had opened a door to new possibilities. She had inspired someone powerful to see the world differently, and through that, she had brought good to many others. One evening, as the sun set behind the city, Angela walked out of the center and paused to look at the sky. Mr. Thompson and his daughter were standing nearby, watching the children leave. The little girl ran over and held Angela's hand. Angela smiled down at her. "You're safe now, aren't you?" "Yes," the girl said proudly. "Because of you." Angela shook her head gently. "Because of love. Your father loves you, and love keeps us safe." Mr. Thompson heard her words and felt a deep sense of peace. He realized that all his wealth, his success, and his influence meant little compared to the simple truth Angela lived by. Kindness and love were what made life meaningful. From that day on, their lives stayed connected. Not because of obligation, but because of choice. Angela continued to live with humility, but now with a stronger purpose. Mr. Thompson continued to support her work, not out of pity, but out of respect. And the little girl always carried in her heart the memory of the brave woman who had saved her life, and who had unknowingly changed all of their lives forever.